Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Now we turn our attention to the economy, and we've got the Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, here with us. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good morning.
Well, yes, indeed, all the work that is being done out there. Could you tell me, do you think that they are really translating positively to demand out there?
I think they are. I think it's slow because, of course, there's a trickle-down effect in what happens. Unfortunately, the man on the street, which is everybody, we're the first to feel the brunt and the last to feel the upside. But I think it's getting better, certainly better now than it was, say, this time last year. The trajectory that we've started to see is positive, but more importantly, it's sustainable. I think we're getting out of recession. All the indices, all the statistics seem to suggest that. But more importantly, we're getting onto a path of growth that will be sustainable, that we can see a future for Nigeria. So I think it is getting better.
But what do you think are those things that perhaps impede those improvements from getting to the people quicker?
I think it's the extent of the problem. We've been heading in this direction now for probably about 10 years. If you actually look at Nigeria's GDP in the last 10 years, it's been averagely trending downwards. And in the same period, we had very high oil prices. So we've actually been heading in this direction for quite a long time. What exacerbated it was a very drastic drop in oil prices, and then the fact that when things were good, we didn't actually spend money on the right things. So we had this double jeopardy. So when we came in, we inherited a lot of problems. The Nigerian economy didn't just need a little bit of a fix here and there. It needed radical surgery. And to heal from radical surgery takes a little bit longer. But the good thing is that it's sustainable now. We know now, for example, that oil is not going back to 110. We have to learn to live at lower oil prices. We have to adjust to lower oil prices. We have to be able to get the rest of the economy productive. Those are permanent things. People that are planting plantations now, those plantations will still be producing in 20 years, in 30 years' time. The roads that we're fixing will still be there for the people in 20 and 30 years' time. So the kind of expenditure we're doing now in infrastructure and trying to get the wider economy growing are long-term sustainable adjustments. And that's why I think it's taking a bit longer for the impact to be felt. But having said that, I mean, the biggest problem we face, I think, is unemployment. Particularly among young people. But, if you sample young people that are unemployed, we have graduates, and indeed not, who've been unemployed for 10 years. So they didn't become unemployed in the last 2 years. This has been a consistent problem.
But we had a very huge figure in 2016. I think it's 3.7 million.
Yes, but our population, largely that's population growth. That's people coming out of school, coming out of university, for whom the economy cannot absorb them. The job market can't absorb them. We have, as I say, graduates who've been unemployed for 10 years.
So what policies are you having in place to try to absorb these people and get them employed?
The solution, of course, is to get the economy productive. The solution is for businesses to open up and employ people, to be productive, to have import substitution. So take, for example, we were talking early on about clothing, the clothing industry, cotton, textile garments. Even if we don't produce cotton at the moment, we can sew clothes, we can have factories, we can have, then you get the services that work on the back of that. The lawyers get employed, the accountants get employed. It's actually a process of business growth that is needed. And that was what was lacking in the oil boom. Businesses really just weren't growing, weren't opening up at the right sort of levels. We were importing far more than we needed to, and we weren't creating the right volume of jobs. We've got to create jobs.
In your diversification plan for the economy, you're looking at clusters also to try to see what parts of the country will best suit what to produce. How has that plan been?
Well, that's really being driven by the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, and of course the state governments. From a federal government perspective, our job is to provide the enabling infrastructure. Transportation links are one of the big problems. So we have, say, for example, take a state like Taraba, has potential to be productive in coffee, in tea, in dairy, but the transport links are not there. You put the transport links in and you can begin to see those cluster developments. We're enabling that development at the federal level by really focusing on infrastructure, and that's why you see a large allocation to roads, to rail, to power, because those are the things that are needed to enable that regional development that will mean that the states aren't as dependent on sharing oil proceeds. You can have productivity in every zone. And if you look at Nigeria, there's no zone that's not productive, that doesn't have productive capacity. Everybody has something that they could do. What's missing is that enablement.
You were part of a committee that was supposed to come out with a report that suggests that the food prices would come down. What happened to that report?
Well, I don't know if it was a report. It was a committee that reviewed the challenges around food price. And food price is a very strange phenomenon in Nigeria, because as food prices are very high in the urban areas, there is food rotting in various parts of the country. If you go to Benue, you can walk on literally rotting oranges, just falling off the trees. What's the problem? Evacuation. Niger State, the governor, we were speaking to him recently, he was talking about yam, just rotting, because the cost of transportation is so high that bringing it into Abuja from some of those regions is just prohibitive. So we feel that one of the problems, and that was one of the things the committee looked at, is actually the transportation costs. What the farmers are getting is actually quite low. It's actually the transportation costs into the urban areas that's causing food price escalation. Now, the solution is to solve the infrastructure problem. But that's a long-term solution. It takes a year, 2 years to get a road going. What do we do in the meantime? Government is looking at that. We're working very hard, particularly on rice at the moment. How do we support our rice farmers to get the price of rice down? So that there is work being done on that, and I think you'll hear some fairly positive news on that fairly soon.